Hey, it's springtime in a lot of places around the world, and we're gonna go native. Hi, I'm Michael Shevack, and welcome to Godsearch. We're here to discover that great mystery that's there in every faith, no faith, just by being alive, that there is this powerful force of good. Good. You can contract it, make it smaller, and you get the word God. Let's not debate it. And my guest today is Peter Burleigh. Hey, Peter is most amazing thing because he is an ordinary, what we would call white boy. And he's from the South on top of it. And yet he has done something rather extraordinary with his God search. Peter Burleigh, welcome to God Search. Tell us about your God search.
Thank you, Michael. Hello. Hello, everyone. Grateful to be here. Yeah, I guess you'd say I'm an ordinary Southern gentleman from Macon, Georgia, you know?
It's
Um,
it's not common what
yeah.
you do.
I grew up, my God search began, I guess, when I was young, my grandparents I went to church with my grandparents a lot. I would stay with them for the summers. And it was interesting because they went to separate churches. My grandmother, sometimes they'd go together, but for the most part, my grandfather was a very simple man, and he would just my grandmother would get dressed up and go to her Sunday mornings and then the Sunday evening church services at this big church. And my grandfather would just get up and walk down to the street to this little small church, and he'd go in there, and I'd walk with him just down the street, and we'd go in there, we'd sing some songs, he'd say his prayers, he'd say thank you, and he'd get up and we'd walk home, just
Yeah,
keeping it
yeah,
simple.
simple church, right?
Very simple,
And
very, very simple little
ours was
church.
all
Hers was big. Hers
ours
was
was
big, and it was a social
she,
thing, and seeing
right.
friends, and
She had
and I
heaven
get
on
it.
earth.
I
Wow.
enjoyed both for different reasons, but but looking back on it, um, that time, that special moment walking with my grandfather to church was really, I think, very profound, because it showed me that you can keep it simple. That's my mother has always told me to keep it simple. My grandfather showed me that too. So
So keeping it simple became an early thematic to you.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how'd you feel about the big, the big gigantic churches? How do you feel about gigantic
Well,
mega
I
churches?
love that too. I mean, there's a lot of friends there. I had a lot of young kids I could play
Yeah.
with and meet, and that was fun too. And great pastors there. Um, and it's all relative, right? I enjoyed going to that too. But as I grew up, I realized that, well, yeah, life, you don't have to get dressed up. Some people don't have the money to get dressed up to go to a church, and so they maybe they won't go.
Yeah.
But if they just knew they could keep it simple,
That's great. So you had a kind of early childhood, you know, Christian experience. Was it an actual Christian experience or was
Oh,
it?
absolutely. And and then we went religiously. We went all the time. Yeah, I know. And I remember soaking up those teachings and learning about, the disciples and Peter and Paul. And, oh, my name's Peter. I kind of connect with that and kind of see it on a different level than I think other people that weren't named after the disciples. I don't know. I kind of took to it pretty easily.
Yeah.
And I remember learning about joy, which is Jesus, others, and you, putting
Oh,
others,
wow. I never heard that before. That's great.
Jesus, others, and you, and putting yourself, being a service to others before yourself.
Wow, you should trademark that. I never heard of that. That's great.
Yeah,
That's
joy.
terrific.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Joy to the world. That's great.
Right. There you
I
go.
mean,
Being of service to the world.
that is really, really cool. So as you grew up, did you stay in a Christian fold or what changed?
As I grew up, I kind of stepped away from the church a little bit. Somehow in my teens, when I was about 12, 13, I went back and got saved on my own in
Oh,
a
really?
church. Yes.
What
And that was
church?
interesting too. But then that faded too. And I just get into life as a young teenage man and going to hanging out with friends and partying and things like that.
Wait, you wait a second. So you felt the need to get saved
Yeah, I got pulled into another church.
before you.
Yeah.
experienced the decadent
Yeah.
paganism of the prodigal son. So you
Yeah.
had a kind of butt cover
Yeah. Something like
at
that.
a time. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, life, just goes on. Just, I think even through that, even if you're not going to church, I've always prayed every day in my own way. Um,
Right.
Even from young time, since I was a youth, it's just always, I'm always praying and thinking of other people and saying a prayer for
But
them.
you made a very, very big leap.
Well, I did. So as I had my son when I was 25, and that led me into was living in Atlanta, and I was working in the construction field, and I was working with my friend Mikey. And one day, my friend Mikey was talking to me, and he said, and he took off his shirt, and he had these marks on his body. I was like, "What are these things?" He's like, "Oh, he's telling me about it." And he's like, "Yeah, we go to the sweat lodge thing." It's like, "Would you like to come?" I was like, "Yeah, I'd like to come." I guess I'm fast forwarding a lot. There was it in it. So Mike invited me to the sweat lodge, the first one I ever went to, and he's like, "Yeah, come pick me up." So I picked him up.
A sweat lodge for people out there. We're not talking about a gym that you pay for membership in order to
No, no,
like
no,
Pong
no.
Club.
So it's an
What are we
Anipi,
talking here?
and sorry, so Anipi. It's a Lakota sweat lodge. It's a
It's a
I
Lakota.
was
So Mikey was introduced
yeah,
you to Lakota tradition.
he did. He
That's
did. He
that.
took at the time that I met Mikey and I was working with Mikey, I was having really hard troubles with my relationship with my son's mother and things like that. And I was really broken. I was really hurt. I was pretty down on my luck and trying to figure out what to do next and how to live. And so when Mikey took me to the sweat lodge, we got in there and the first thing, you know, I'm unfamiliar with it. So it's like this hut, you're like, what is this thing? And we're going to go in there. They're going to bring in hot stones and they're going to pour water on it. It's going to get really hot. It's going to be so. So the first, I think I'm fast forwarding, but the first thing in there, I got in there and they started singing the songs. They started singing these songs, and I immediately just something came straight through me, like I knew these songs before, like I'd known
You
these.
you felt like you didn't learn that you weren't listening to the songs, but you were remembering the songs.
That's how it felt. Yes, sir.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I in there I learned how to forgive myself and others, and make peace with things, and it really changed my life. That first sweat lodge really changed my life and the community that I was taken to.
Well, was Mikey an actual tribe member of the Lakota, or was
No, he was a part of their community.
so does Lakota have an outreach to other people who would be interested in learning their ways?
I don't know that that's the case. There are numerous leaders and uh, lodges, as we call them, around the country, that
Really?
anyone could find. But I don't know that there's an outreach program.
I'm just like,
um,
how many Lakota inspired people who are, let's say, not formal members of the tribes? I'm talking Kevin Costner before he got adopted into the tribe.
yeah.
How many
Well, I
actually,
mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of sweat lodge communities around the country.
really?
Yes, there are.
So how
And
many years have
and
you,
if you
but go ahead.
if you want to find one, there's ways to find them. You can't just there's not an email or anything. There's not a index or directory. It's kind of through word of mouth. So
Yeah.
um,
So compare that to your earliest childhood experiences tagging along to churches with your grandparents and praying on your own. What did you get from being part of this group? And you're still You know,
Absolutely. I'm still
but
connected with this
still,
group of people.
you are still
They,
participating in this,
it
right?
literally saved my life.
How many
I
years?
can,
How
huh?
many
Go ahead.
how many years have you been doing this?
I went to my first sweat lodge in 2009. It's
2009.
2009.
That's 17 years ago. If all right.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
time. What did you get? What, tell me the transformation that took place. I mean,
Oh man.
stay with the
It
religion
was
17 years voluntarily. I mean, like by
right.
choice, unless you're getting something out of it. We're not just talking, you got
That's right.
religion dumped on why birth, and then you kind of got stuck into it. You
That's right.
chose.
It was huge transformation. Like I said, that first sweat lodge, I wept. I cried in there. And something just came over me. It was like, you're in the it's scary. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's dark, it's hot. There's a lot of fear that comes up for everyone, and how you manage that. But something, I felt secure. I was like, oh, this is good. This is where you need to be. And my uncle, he would always say after every lodge, he says, you know where we are now. As long as you come in a good, humble way, we're here on the first and third weekend of every month to pray. You can come. You know where we are. You're all welcome here. And I took that to heart. I was like, oh, first and third weekend of every month, I'm there. And so I just started going. And
Is there a formalized worship service that's part of it, or is there a you go to church, there's a process, you'll have a doxology, you'll have all these, is there anything formal to it, or
there are traditions. So this has been
right?
passed down from the Lakotas, and many people gave their lives so that this could exist in the world. And so it's held in a sacred manner, and it's held in high regard, and it's not to be changed. And there's really trying to hold the container, of and keeping it the same. Because if everyone comes in and changes it a little bit, then it gets lost in translation down the line. So um, the people that have been given that gift and shared or given permission to hold lodges, um, they have to go through certain things to get there, and it takes many years to get there, and to get those permissions and things like that, because it's a gift. It's a gift that was given. Um, there's a lot of history there as far as white people having sweat lodges, and but the elders, the Lakota elders, realized in the '80s that if they didn't bring this east, that they were going to lose it. A lot of people gave their lives um, so that this could exist in the world to help people.
They had, if I remember right, I don't know, I don't know a lot, but the Lakota really suffered tremendously
Absolutely,
from the European invasion.
they did, as did most all the other tribes too. Lakota are unique in a way that they were able to retain and hold their ceremonies. They hid them in the mountains in the Black Hills, and they kept them alive. It wasn't until 1978 that it was legal to even have an Inipi ceremony, or for even a Native American to hold a feather and hold those things. So
That's outlawed.
it was outlawed until 1978 with the Religious Freedom Act.
And was that outlawed by the federal government, or was that
Yes,
outlawed by the state government?
federal government.
So it was a federal government. It was definitely a coercive plot to be culturally dominate and repress the local population.
Correct.
Is that land ownership based? In other words, were they trying to, was it an issue of a land grab, or what do you think was going on?
That's always been the case. I mean, even today, they're always under attack for their land.
Yeah.
The treaties were never honored. There's a lot to unpack and all that.
Well,
Yeah,
do you feel any kind of antagonism? Because, here you're a good Southern church going, white boy. I love that expression, white boy. Um, and then you are drawn. It's almost like Harry Potter. It's almost like the wand chose the wizard. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. Well,
And you were drawn into this ceremony and felt it as if you had lived it before. So
That's correct.
whether you lived it before or whether you had merged with a Lakota consciousness, it would be the same phenomenon. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the two.
Right.
So, do you feel any kind of conflict between these two aspects of who you are? They're dramatic. I mean, one side of you is an invader, and the other side of you
Mm.
is someone who is usurped and debased. It's quite a
I don't
conflict.
see it that way though. So I've always felt connected to the earth. Um, and, even as a child playing in the forest, I've always, understood and respected the natural life and natural orders of life.
Right.
I've never felt like an invader. I mean, sure, I guess because I have, my lineage and blood, but my grandparents were sharecroppers, in Alabama, and my
Mm,
great grandparents were
mm,
sharecroppers and stuff, and they had a rough road too, you
right.
know, just trying to survive on a farm and keep the kids fed and feed the livestock. But yeah, so I the how do I say that? So I've never felt an imbalance. I've always felt imbalanced, like in balance, not imbalance. So I've always felt balanced with it. I didn't see it as different. They fit together to me perfectly in a weird way. As
What,
far as like my,
what's the weird way?
um, and I'm just saying like my Christian upbringing just flowed right in with my Lakota teachings and things too. It just gave me I could understand them in a different light. I could see them in a better way of, uh, one of the main tenets of Lakota philosophy, and I'm, only speaking for myself and the things that I know. I'm not an authority on anything, but is Mitakuye, and that means
Well, say it
all my
slowly. Say it slowly for everyone.
Mitakuye Oasin, and I
Mataki.
might be messing up the language there.
Mataki.
Mitakuye Oasin,
What
and
is it?
it means we are all related, all my relations. That means from the highest flying bird to the lowest crustacean in the ocean, we are all connected to it. And I believe that, and that makes sense to me. That we're all connected to every living being on this planet.
Well, how does that change your everyday life? I mean, what does it do? Do you dress differently? Do you drive differently? Do you
Well, that's the hard part, right? There's
you
that
get really
dichotomy.
angry
There's
if
the
someone
issue
cuts
of,
you off
well,
on
I
the
have to drive
road?
these, right? I have to drive these petrochemical vehicles to live. It's a very difficult time to live, right? Because it's like we believe these things and we know them in our heart to be true, but we're born into a system that makes it almost impossible to live in a pure way. So trying to figure that out and walk in life in a good way is that's that's
Well,
a challenge.
then it's not, that sounds like from what you said earlier, that you have no personal inward disconnect between the teachings, but that the world itself makes it difficult for you to harmonize them in action. In
That's correct.
That's a very, very troubling thing. So I mean, so there's a lot of Christians out there who are having difficulties with the ecological is the ecological and the naturalist components that were Western Christianity tended to repress very, very heavily. And we discussed this on earlier God Search. By the way, if you've just tuned in, welcome to God Search. This is Peter Burleigh. We're going natural with him. He's a Lakota devotee, and it's very interesting. So there is this strange discomfort with more of the industrial kind of mechanistic power and economic power based aspect of Christianity and the earthy and the connectedness, you know.
Well,
I mean, you're not alone in that.
right. So the Christian flow into to Lakota philosophy was never an issue, but living in the world in a way in a system that is completely anti all that, the world itself. I mean, the petrochemicals and things we're having to use, and Um, Even just how we source our food, that's the tricky part, right?
Yeah. So what do you do? It's
What do
like
you do?
having a faith, but no, you're not in a. It's like you're in a community, but the community is a very universal and cosmic community, but you can't. You got blocks all around you. How does someone handle
I
that?
mean, we just have to live in the world that we're in and do the best we can and be the best people that we can.
Would
That's
you
how we change the world.
do you exemplify Lakota principles when you're out?
I try to walk in a good way every day.
So what would you do that you would say is different than the average person who is not taught these principles?
You know, that's a good question. I think, it's just being humble, being honest. It's nothing, honor, respect, humility, perseverance, um, respect, love, and kindness. There's nothing, there's nothing, it's the same principles that Jesus was trying to teach. Love thy neighbor, care for each other, do unto others as you'd want them to do unto you. It's the same thing.
But do you work overtime to like try at least in your own home and amongst your own relations to source your food correctly, to try to set a
as much as we can,
a mini community within the larger community?
as much as we can. So our lodge community is strong, and it. One thing my elders always told me, he said, he'd always say, look around this circle. You never have to walk alone. Look around this circle. Look at all these people. If you choose to, you can call them your brothers and sisters. And the strength of that community and the prayers, the way we pray together, that ripples out. Similar to a church, but there's difference to it for
Yeah.
sure. Um, and those prayers ripple out to help the people.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, we had earlier conversations, and you mentioned something about a Sundance of some kind that you're involved in.
right. So
What is that?
So the Sundance is the Weon-Washipi, which is the one of the seven sacred rites of the Lakota.
We a sheepy?
Weon-Washipi
Oh, I'll never get that.
is to gaze at the sun,
To gaze at the sun.
and it's like the high holy of the Lakota traditions.
Yeah.
Um,
Then what is that like? I'm not
um,
I'm not asking you to give away any
yeah,
trade.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, so to even get that, the Sundance is one of the most profound moments of my life. I can only speak to my experiences there. Um, but it's the culmination of many ceremonies going on at one time there. And um, yeah, it's sacrifice, it's kinship, it's blood, sweat, and tears, you know, um,
They were a
out
good
there.
group. They were a good group. I liked them. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an interesting way to pray, and I never thought I would partake in anything like that ever.
Can you give us any details without betraying your sacred tradition?
Um, so the Sundance is, um, man, how do I to teach that? So the Sundance happens is the new year for the Lakota people, and it
Yeah.
happens in the summertime, and it happens usually in June, July, the hottest part of the summer, and it's 4 days of purification and it's 4 days of dancing, and so it's an 8 day ceremony in total, and the 4 days of purification, everyone's getting the grounds ready and building the arbor and things like that. And the arbor is a hochoka, which is a circle,
Right.
and it's aligned to north, south, east, and west. And on after the fourth day of purification, they will come in. The community will gather and they'll go out and they'll take a tree, a living being. They'll cut it down in a sacred manner, and they bring that tree to the center of the circle that they've created, and they place it in the ground. And once that tree goes into the ground, the ceremony has begun and the dance has begun. And any dancers from that moment on can no longer partake of water or food for the next 4 days.
That's a 4-day fast, including water.
Correct.
Wow. And they dance for 4 days.
They dance for 4 days. So we dance the sun up and to sundown, and then you sleep. And most people just sleep right there in the arbor. So, um, and then the days are short because it's summer, so, or the nights are short.
Well,
So
why is it that summer is New Year's?
I
I mean,
they just look at it as their new year.
I kind of
That is when their New Year's begins, and
yeah.
once that ends, it's getting ready for the next dance for the next year, and it kind of recycles.
Why is summer considered to be the beginning of the new year? Is it, in other words, summer is the end of summer? Is that what
Mhm.
it is?
It's right there at the beginning of June, July. So
At the
right there
height, it's at the actual.
at the height of the sun. That's
So it's
correct.
as if it's saying that the fullness of the growth
Mhm.
of and agriculture is always sun-based. It's the fullness of the growth is the beginning of the year. It's very interesting that the beginning of the year is the fullness, which is so
Right.
very interesting and different than other, I hate the word religion because it's not accurate, than the views of other peoples, you know. It's very interesting. So it must be, I'm just exhausted at the thought of it. I mean,
It's a lot of work, and you don't just jump into it willy-nilly. It takes years to even prepare to think about doing it, really. That's how it was for me. I went to my first lodge in 2009, and I didn't end up dancing until 2016. And it took and even then, it was years before 2016 that it was starting to kind of, okay, maybe I could do this, maybe I should do this, and asking, internally and through the spirits and prayer to if I should do that.
that's
And so yeah, I mean, it just takes it's a
you
big
did
deal.
you feel when you say that, I mean, it's not just words. You actually feel a presence of entities beyond you entering you and moving you towards these decisions. Is that how you felt it?
I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah. Can you
yeah.
share one of those experiences?
Oh, I not necessarily.
That's okay. All right.
But I'll tell you, so the Sundance is life and death. It's birth. So you have the north, south, east, and west, and you have all the directions, and you have the colors. Black, white, red, yellow. Black being death, red being life, and things like that. And it's the cycles. So the cycles of the circle of the Sundance is the cycles of life. As we come in, as young men into the earth or young humans, and then as we grow older and we reach our fourth stage of life.
Black, white, red,
Red,
meaning blood, because it's
right,
life,
right.
and yellow.
Yes.
What's
This
yellow?
yellow's yellow is the east, but the rising sun.
So yellow's the rising sun, and is west black?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And so red is
North.
north. Okay.
Hmm.
And white is south.
Hmm.
Okay, because that makes sense in a kind of strange way, but I don't understand why it makes sense.
And everywhere you go, it's always
Sun
got a
goes
different
down in the
picture.
west, so I figured it was dark as
Hmm.
opposed to the sun that goes up in the east.
Yeah, it comes up in this. Yeah, that's right.
That makes sense. So if you were to, well, let me ask you a question from the Lakota perspective, without being unnecessarily mean. What do you think about current events? I mean, and some of the religious motivations and stuff that's going on. I
I
mean,
think people have lost their minds and they've lost their faith. I don't think they're really following Christian faith or any of. I think they've kind of lost their way.
you think
I
they've
think institutional. I think the big institutional places have lost their way. If I can say that gently.
well, that's pretty gentle, but what I find to be so fascinating is that imagine this onslaught. I'm not saying every European that came to America was a rapacious and evangelical imperialist, though there were a lot. But what's so interesting to me is that if the premise is true that that kind of stuff that we're pointing out is they've lost their way, I find it so amazingly fascinating that the people they conquered have the belief system that's needed to repair them.
Right. Well, I mean, even today, I mean, the United States is the same as it was in the 1800s in a way.
In many
We're
ways,
still conquering land and trying to take more, and they want all
yeah.
the Lakota lands. They're trying
But
to.
I'm wondering whether or not there will ever come a time when the main culture of the United States will be more Native American. I mean, there's something about culture linked to land. Hi, June.
Mhm.
There's something about the culture linked to land that's very deep. And if you invade a country and you conquer, you may conquer externally, but they enter you. What you break, you buy.
Right, right.
What
Well,
you
that's a yeah. That first part you said. What did you say? Repeat that. I'm sorry.
well, I'm just saying that when you conquer, okay, you're conquering
Hmm.
externally, but yet
You
the
can't break the spirit. That's right.
spirit is some if your premise that you were drawn to is that we're all connected, what happens to the conqueror and because he conquers a certain belief? Do you think there might be a time where the belief of America, whether it's framed Christian, whether it's framed, Muslim, whatever it is, will be harmonious with Native American teachings?
I certainly hope so. I've always wondered what this nation would have looked like had Columbus assimilated with the Native Americans instead of slaughtering them all.
Yeah, really.
I mean, there was millions and millions of
But yet the
natives.
structure of our government, if I remember, was very influenced
Absolutely, by the Iroquois.
by the Iroquois. Right.
Iroquois Confederacy. That's
The
correct.
Iroquois Confederacy very influenced the thinking of people.
Hmm. And I think it was just not that long ago, 20 years ago or something, that the United States acknowledged and said thank you to the Iroquois
Uh,
for showing them how to build the government because we got it from the natives.
yeah,
So
that's really, really interesting.
that
So,
structure of life, liberty, you know,
all right. But anyone out there, by the way, go to yourgodsearch.com, yourgodsearch.com. Send us a note, talk about this stuff. We've got to get everyone's God search out there. And no better way to do it than talking. It's a lot easier than killing. So, okay, say, do something. I know this sounds really terrible. Do something like Lakota. I mean, sing me a song or something. If you
do
can,
something
if you can,
Lakota.
without, rendering your tradition, you know, you know, too frivolously. I'm
All
not
right.
pushing you.
I will
Just
sing a
give
prayer
people a
song.
sense of a flavor, just a flavor of the spirit through music.
This is my favorite prayer song, and it's simple to me. And the translation, it says, Grandfather, for this day is sacred. Thank you. Grandfather, for my life is sacred. Thank you. And it goes, Tonga shela wichoni wa my uncle Elo. Chewokyalo, Pilamaya Yelo, Hai, Ompetukile, Wakayelo, Hai, Chewokyalo, Pilamaya Yelo, Hai. Tonkashela wichoni wa mayang koelo che wokyalo pila maya yelo hai hompe tu kile wakayelo hai che wokyalo Pila Maya Yellow Hai.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, that's a good place to, you know, call it a day. Hi, this is Mike Shevack. Welcome and thank you for coming to God Can't Talk. I'm stoned from that actually. Hey, thanks for coming to God Search. We're here every Wednesday about 7:45 Eastern Daytime. Thank you, Peter Burleigh, for bringing your
Thank
God
you, Mike.
to everyone. By the way, he's my son-in-law. Can you believe that? It's great. And it's really expansive and terrific. And he's great. He's great. So thanks for everyone for coming. And remember, uncover God, discover God. And if you had a bad religious experience, recover God. There's all sorts of things. Go native. There's a lot of interesting stuff in it, and we need the knowledge and we need to keep it alive since so many people were involved in driving it underground and killing it. Let's help keep it alive. This is Mike Shevack. Peter, thank you for being here. All
Thank
right.
you.
Happy God searching, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you.